It all began with a British addiction, not to opium, but to tea. By the early 1800s, Britain was guzzling Chinese tea like it was holy water. Add in silk and porcelain, and you had a shopping list that made British merchants weep. Why? Because China didn't want British goods. They wanted silver, and lots of it. Meanwhile, China was the Beyoncé of global trade, self-sufficient, elegant, and totally uninterested in foreign suitors. Westerners were banned from wandering inland, and all trade was squeezed through one port, Canton, Guangzhou. It was like trying to funnel the Thames through a teacup. With silver bleeding out of Britain's economy, merchants got desperate. And what do desperate men do? They sell drugs. Enter opium, harvested from poppies in British India. Illegal in Britain, but hey, who's checking in China? At first, Chinese smokers weren't interested, but addiction is a patient beast. By the 1830s, opium was everywhere, and British profits were soaring. In just 1 year, China spent $7 million silver on the stuff. That's not a trade imbalance, it's a financial black hole. Enter the hero of our tale, Viceroy Lin Zexu, a man with a spine of steel and a moral compass that pointed due north. He seized opium crates, burned them, and wrote a heartfelt letter to Queen Victoria, pleading for an end to the poison trade. She never replied. Maybe it got lost in the royal spam folder? Lin wasn't playing around. He sentenced dealers to death, locked down Canton, and demanded the British hand over smugglers. The British refused. Then came the spark. Drunken British sailors killed a Chinese villager. Britain gave them 6 months of hard labor. Lin wanted them tried in Chinese courts. Britain said, nope. So Lin banned food sales to British nationals. A bold move, but one that poked the imperial bear. British merchants, now starving off the coast, begged for food. When China refused, the British Trade Commissioner said, fine, we'll just shoot you. Thus began the Battle of Kowloon, a skirmish so small it barely made the papers. But it was the first shot in a war that would reshape Asia. China thought it had scared the British off. But back in London, Parliament was cooking up a full-blown military response. Newspapers fanned the flames with tales of Chinese cruelty. Public opinion turned. War was coming. In June 1840, the British returned with a fleet that could make Poseidon jealous. They captured Dinghai, then sailed up and down the coast, blowing Chinese junks to splinters. The Chinese Navy, though massive, was hopelessly outgunned. Steam-powered British gunboats could sail against the wind and fire farther than anything China had. Then came the HMS Nemesis, a beast of a ship designed to navigate shallow rivers. It sailed down the Pearl River, and Canton fell. The British couldn't hold it, so they traded it back for cash and set up shop in Hong Kong. By 1842, China had had enough. The Treaty of Nanking ended the First Opium War. 5 ports opened to British trade. Hong Kong ceded to Britain. China paid a massive indemnity. It was a diplomatic gut punch. China, once the proud dragon of Asia, had been humbled, and the West smelled blood. By the 1850s, China was a hot mess. The Taiping Rebellion, led by a self-proclaimed prophet who believed he was Jesus' younger brother, yes, really, was tearing the empire apart. Millions died. The Emperor Xianfeng was young, overwhelmed, and, ironically, addicted to opium. Meanwhile, Britain was sipping tea and plotting expansion. They wanted more ports, more trade, and more power. And then came the perfect excuse. In 1856, Chinese officials boarded a British ship called the Arrow, arrested the crew, and allegedly lowered the British flag. Scandal, outrage, diplomats gasped. One Chinese official even slapped the British consul across the face, a diplomatic slap heard around the world. Although the prisoners were released, the Chinese refused to apologize. Britain, ever the drama queen, declared this a national insult and sent warships down the Pearl River, blasting Canton's riverside forts like it was fireworks night. Seeing China flounder, other Western powers jumped in like kids at a candy store. France used the murder of a missionary as their excuse. Russia and the US joined the trade talks when China started losing. The Chinese army, still rocking bows, arrows, and flintlocks. The British, steamships, cannons, and rifles. It was like sending medieval knights into a laser tag arena. In 1858, Anglo-French forces captured Canton and sailed toward Tianjin, just 30 miles from Beijing. Emperor Xianfeng panicked and agreed to the Treaty of Tianjin, which gave the West everything they wanted. But then, plot twist, China refused to ratify the treaty. They made a last stand at the Dagu forts, where British Marines got stuck in the mud and were massacred. It was a rare Chinese victory, and it made the West furious. In 1860, the Anglo-French alliance returned with vengeance in their hearts and gunpowder in their pockets. They broke through river defenses and marched toward Peking. The emperor had 20,000 Mongolian troops waiting, but they were no match for modern firepower. The imperial army was cut to ribbons. The emperor fled, the gates opened, and the looting began. Priceless art? Stolen. Imperial treasures? Hauled off to Europe. A tiny Pekingese puppy? Gifted to Queen Victoria and named Ludi. Yes, really. When British prisoners were found tortured and executed, Lord Elgin, the British commander, ordered the burning of the Summer Palace. It was a cultural catastrophe, but back in Britain, Elgin was hailed as a hero. Take that tyranny, they cheered. With the emperor gone, his brother Prince Gong signed the Convention of Peking. Opium was legalized. 11 more ports opened, missionaries allowed to preach. Foreigners could travel freely. Britain got $10 million in reparations. And the emperor? He died a year later, addicted to opium, broken by war and buried under the weight of humiliation. Britain wouldn't stop selling opium until 1907. China wouldn't recover from addiction until Chairman Mao's brutal crackdown in the 1950s. The Opium Wars weren't just about drugs. They were about imperialism, pride, and the painful birth of modern China. So next time you sip your tea, remember, it was once steeped in gunpowder, greed, and a puppy named Ludi. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Every follow helps grow this channel. See you in the next one.